And but I just think it's stupid because if you're going to pay someone to voice their opinion, then don't suspend them when they voice that opinion. That sounds pretty stupid, huh? How can you ever have someone voice, hey, John Gale, I want you to call in and I want you to tell me what you think. And I'm going to pay you to do it. Okay, he's actually calling in. And I'm going to pay you to do it. And when you do, hey, what's up, John?
How much are you going to pay me? You said you're going to pay me to come in and talk.
See, if they were smart, they'd pay her afterwards and pay her on the quality of her opinion. How about that? How much are you willing to contribute, opinion-wise, John?
What I really found amazing about the whole thing is Meghan McCain, her little comment, because she has insider knowledge. She worked with her for all those years on The View, and she said behind the scenes that there's stuff that said behind the scenes that eventually comes out on the camera. So there's history with her. She has these feelings all the time, evidently.
Yeah, but so I addressed that a little bit. It looks like before you got in the show, what I said about that was that's already been known, right? They know that.
Right.
They've either had complaints or her coworkers know it. No, so this isn't anything new. Like they know what kind of person she is, and they still are willing to put her up on that screen in front of all those viewers and pay her to voice her opinion. They're not paying her to get up there and read the news. They're paying her to get up there and analyze current events and tell people what she thinks about it. That's what they're doing, and that's what she did. She did her job, whether or not anyone likes it. It doesn't matter because I don't like her. I didn't agree with what she said. I never do, and I know that this is karma for her because she's calling to get everyone canceled. Sometimes I'm sure she does, right? I would not surprise me if she has went and tried to censor people before at some point. So either you address the problems that are occurring behind the scenes, as they come up and actually address them, but you can't just hold them and then wait to hold it against her when the time is right. That's wrong. That's wrong for anyone. That is bullshit if they did that. If they were getting these complaints, however many it may be, and the guy's like, no, she's a big presence on our show. She's popular. People like her. We're gonna let her keep going on there. We're not gonna acknowledge it. Maybe slap her on the wrist. Hey, Whoopi, don't be so mean to people outside of the show.
They're giving her the benefit of the doubt is what they're doing. They're enabling her.
Yeah. But if you are holding all of those those complaints and whatnot, and those, there's a word I'm thinking, but all the bad things that build up for that one moment she does something you don't like, that's wrong. That's not right. I'm sorry, that is not right. Either address it as it comes up and handle it then and move on, or don't do anything about it at all. But the reason that you can't just go and suspend someone for some crazy reason and then say, oh, well, we're investigating other things. Well, why weren't you investigating that before? Because this event should not have determined anything to do with the other investigations. You see where I'm getting at?
Hey, Mike, did you hear when they were talking, when the woman that put her in timeout basically said, this is going to take this 2 weeks to think about what she did. It's like when your parents, send you to your room. I want you to think about what you did wrong. The whole 2 week thing to me, it's just a ploy to kind of appease people who were offended. Because anyone else, if it were a conservative, they would have been let go, fired,
I know,
canceled immediately.
I know.
But
And
here she is. She's be back in 2 weeks.
I get it. But as a conservative, I can't condone what she's going through, because I wouldn't want it to happen to me. In fact, I think conservatives need to take this opportunity and back her up on this. To show, like, look, we don't care what someone says. She has the right to make that opinion, just like I have the right to make my opinion. I don't want her to get canceled for saying what she says, and I don't want myself to get canceled for saying what I say. We both have the right to do so. That's where it starts. But when we start saying, when people are saying, oh, Michael needs to be off, I don't like what he says. He's conservative, he's dangerous, he's radical, whatever. Cancel him. Do not let him back on here. Facebook needs to shadow ban him, delete his account. TikTok needs to, delete him, everything. And it happens often.
Twitter, YouTube.
Yep, all that. But then
the whole 9 yards.
Yeah. If we can't have them doing that, and then when they do something I don't like, me turn around and say, oh, we need to ban her. We need to kick her off. Come on, cancel her. No, that's where we don't make progress. It's got to be, there can't be a double standard with this. That's the problem. And Republicans and conservatives are falling into this trap because they're tired of being canceled and criticized for every little thing they say that people don't agree with. That they're throwing it back on those people. And they're saying, ha ha, karma's a bitch. You canceled me, now you're canceled. Funny. It shouldn't work like that. I would imagine that it would be more powerful to, support a liberal from being canceled and trying to protect them and their right to free speech and voice their opinion, because I want my right to do it so as well.
Well, I don't disagree that she has the right to say what she says. We all have that right. But I think that there are consequences for whatever we say, whether we're conservative or liberal. I do believe that it is one-sided, obviously.
Yeah.
And so to see this happen to her, we're all gleefully glad that it did. But to me, it's all for show anyway, because it's not going to last. We talked about Roseanne on my show.
Mm-hmm.
She lost her career, her job, her show,
Yep.
her income. Whoopi's off for 2 weeks, can cry and whine about it and go on vacation and come back and, I've learned, kind of thing. So it's just hypocritical to me. But we all, yeah, you're right. We all have the right to say what we want, but the consequences are what they are. I mean, people were genuinely, if you were a member of a Jewish family whose loved one died during the Holocaust, you would be highly offended and want her to have something done to her. Canceled might not be the right thing, but there needs to be some kind of recompense for what she did, I think.
I see where you're coming from. I do, and you're right about the consequences. Right? No one's saying that everything you say, especially if it's going to be controversial, you need to be willing to deal with what the consequences are. I 100% agree. The problem, though, John, is in this circumstance, why is she being punished? Because she was literally doing what they were paying her to do. Like I said before, she's paid to get up there and voice her opinion no matter what that opinion is. You can't, because I also look at it like this. If you are paying someone to get up there and state their opinion, but then when they say something you don't like, you slap them with a 2-week suspension, what are you doing now? Now you're going to you're forcing them to change that opinion. And you're then at that point, you're actually forming a narrative around your own agenda. And obviously, so it's kind of like a double-edged sword. You're right about the consequences. The problem is that the role of the people that are doing the suspension are also the same people that are paying her and incentivizing her to go on and do the very thing that they're suspending her for.
Right, but they only want her to do that for their narrative. They only want her to talk bad about conservatives and the right and
I know. Yeah.
Republicans. So what happened here was she went into territory that offended some of them, and it came back and bit her, you know.
Yeah. No, and
I'm
I
just
get it. You're right. I
devil's
agree with
advocate.
I agree with you. Um, and again, it does it feel nice that this happened to her? I mean, at first I was like, haha, that's what you get. But I don't like it. When I thought about it, I was like, I don't like that. And I would hope that, because what I hope, and I know this would never happen, excuse me, but what my hope would be is that one time I say something maybe that gets me in trouble, that maybe Whoopi Goldberg is there or someone like that, right, on the other end to support me and my right to do it. I'm not saying they're going to like it. They may not ever listen to me. I may lose viewers in the fallout and all that stuff. That's just what I would hope for. And I think that's how it should be. I know I'm looking at I'm like living in a fantasy with this, but how can I get on here and state my opinion every day and and then say that someone deserves to be shut down for stating theirs? I can't. That's hypocritical. So,
Well, it kind of remains to be seen whether or not, she's really going to be shut down.
yeah.
I don't think she's going to be canceled in the way that
Well, she's not.
many
She's
conservatives
suspended, yeah.
have been canceled.
She's coming
Right.
back. She's not going to
So
be fired. And she's probably paid.
she may
Yeah.
quit. She did talk about that.
Yeah. Well,
She
she's
said
mad.
that, I guess she's upset. Yeah,
Yeah.
she's livid. And from what I've heard as of late, her co-hosts, are all very supportive of her too,
Mm-hmm.
and they're mad as well. So
Yeah, and I think
it's amusing to me more than anything, Mike. I mean, I just kind of, I do, do I gleefully wish, the demise of someone? No. But when someone has taken such a stance against what is right for such a long time,
Mm-hmm.
um, I do kind of take the attitude of, well, hey, what goes around comes around. I mean, just today, they're bashing, they didn't learn anything from what happened. Joy Behar's on there bashing Neil Gorsuch on today's show.
Mm-hmm.
So they just go on with the narrative over and over and over again.
I get it. I know. I don't watch. The only time I really watch them is when I'm trying to get content for the show to talk about.
Right.
Right. And so I completely understand. Go ahead, Eric.
Well, and I think over the 25 years that The View has been on the air, there was the Bill O'Reilly incident back in 2010 when Joy and Whoopi walked off the stage, and Barbara giving the lecture of how that people should never walk away from an interview in that kind of manner. And then there was, of course, the Rosie O'Donnell and Elizabeth Hasselbeck incident in 2007, and then there was the incident when Star Jones, did her on-air resignation on the show because to make it look like she was quitting. But then the next day, Barbara had to do damage control to talk about that ABC had made the decision to fire Star Jones. And then there was another recent incident of like the false positive COVID tests, which I think was another embarrassment for that show.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, there's a history of stupid things on the show.
Right.
Like I said, I am not
and ABC
in denial of
doesn't
this.
seem to want to address it.
No, they don't. And then that brings me back to what I said, Eric, before about there seems to be occurrences, with Whoopi Goldberg, other members of that show, and ABC themselves. But they need to address that then. If you're gonna hold things against people all the way to the time that they do something that is unpopular, and then you just nail them with everything, that's not right. Like, imagine that's like someone going and committing 10 bank robberies. You're letting them do it, But then all of a sudden let's say the FBI, the government knows that this person is committing all of these robberies against banks, and they're going into private homes and breaking in, they're stealing jewels, all this stuff, but they go and they freaking commit tax evasion 20 years down the road, and then now they want to present all of this evidence that they've had for the last 20 years of this person stealing from ordinary people, and then drill him for the tax evasion, but they only did it because he did a crime against the government. That's not fair. Like, why did you not, keep him, address it when you knew about it before, right? That's the same concept.
You're right, Mike. Because, the show is called The View, and it is, supposed to be controversial, and that's the success of it, So you have kind of the contradiction to Fox News, right? I mean, it's a bunch of celebrity women that are a bunch of liberals, and they pontificate what they believe every single day. I mean,
as
that's
stupid
what it's
as it
always
is. Yeah.
Right.
I just think that if you're going to suspend her, let's find something else to suspend her for. If there's a complaint of her screaming and castrate, or what's the word I'm thinking of? Wow. Screaming at an employee or something and being inappropriate to someone that works for her beforehand, right? Like the day before, and there's a complaint, suspend her for that. But to go and then only suspend her, and John, I know that it's a 2-week suspension. She's not going to get fired, right? She's going to be right back on that show, probably talking about whatever it is, voicing her stupid-ass opinion again, unless she quits, right? She'll be back to normal. Like, she's not canceled at all. But it's still the principle, the fact that they're taking an action and punishing her for something that they're paying her to do. Like, they know she says stuff that's crazy and outrageous. This isn't, like I said, it's not the worst thing she said. There's things that she has said that are far more controversial, I would say. Because, again, she didn't downplay the Holocaust, nor did she say it didn't exist. She just said it wasn't about race. That's it. Right.
Yeah. If you really listen to what she said, she was trying to make kind of a statement that it was about man's inhumanity to man, being horrible to each other, whatever race you are. That's sort of what she was saying. But it was the way that she said it,
and then doubled down,
that tipped everybody off. And then doubled down.
I thought what she said on the Colbert Report, or not Colbert Report anymore. What is it? It's not the Colbert Report anymore.
The Late Show with Stephen Colbert.
Show,
yeah, or I like to call it the Late Show with David Letterman or Joan Rivers, for that matter.
Yeah, I mean, I thought what she said there was actually worse, because she knew she screwed up, but she truly felt the way she did and doubled down on it. And then just the next day, she says, "Oh, I was presented with information that changed my mind." It's like, but she actually addressed that information, that same very information, pretty much, on Colbert Report.
Just hours later.
Yeah, just hours earlier, and said that she still thought the way she did. It wasn't until she went to work the next day and said, "Oh, actually, now I see that what I said was wrong." But if you listen to her when she's on Colbert's show, she says, "Yeah, a lot of my friends and people are telling me that it was about race, and they're saying this, blah, blah, blah." And then she even went as far to say that the Germans lied about why they did it. That was crazy. I love that. Like, that is... I was laughing so hard at this, because you screwed up when you start trying to form... Think about this. She knew she was so far in a hole that she tried convincing pretty much the entire world at this point, because everyone's going to go watch this, that a bunch of dead Germans lied about why they did it. They're killing 6 million people, but they're not going to tell the truth on the reason, right? Because apparently they had a reason that justified the whole thing. Like, oh, it's okay, we're doing it because I don't even know. Did she even say what she thought the reason why they did it at all?
Well, she said it was that man's inhumanity against man. You know, like
Yeah.
you just hate your fellow man kind of thing.
Yeah, but
But what
go ahead.
floored me, Michael, was that the way she talked, you can tell that she truly didn't believe like the Jewish people were a race. I mean, you can tell by listening to her
Yeah.
when she talked about, when I see people, I look at their skin and you can tell what race they are.
Yeah.
And I'm just sitting there floored by that because, yeah, you know, being Jewish is a religion, but there is a Hebrew race, you know, that goes pretty much hand in hand with the Arabic race. The
Mm-hmm.
Hebrews and the Arabs kind of came from the same line. And would she say really the same thing about, you know, Arabic people, that they're not, you know,
A
that it's
race.
not a race? Yeah.
Yeah, especially men, right? Because women, you would tell, you know, if someone's from Saudi Arabia or something like that, and the way they dress. But a man here in the United States, how you know, maybe he's Indian, maybe he's from Pakistan, maybe he's from Iraq or Iran,
Right.
right? And they even have Christians over there. Like they have, you know, so
Right.
like you said, yeah, you may not be able to, you may be able to tell that they're not white. Okay, how can you tell if someone's Cuban or Mexican, right? How can you tell if
Well, then
someone,
she even said it was white people against other white people. And I was like, what are you talking about? They are not white people. You know, I mean,
but
they're not Caucasian in the sense of
yeah,
European Caucasian people.
well, and then you have the thought of, oh, it's white on white crime, and you're just kind of saying, well, it wasn't about this. So I guess we're just gonna start saying, oh, well, it's just black on black crime. You know, like,
Right.
but going back, just going back. I mean, yeah, it was crazy what she said, right? And I'm glad we can make fun of it. Like I said, if I watch the View, it's because I want to get content for the show, and she gave us content for the show for sure. But as much as we're gonna make fun of this, I still just don't think that she should have been suspended at all. She should have been on that show today, you know, and saying more stupid stuff because that's what they pay her to do. And but you know, going back to the Germany thing, when she said the Germans lied. She's like, the Germans lied. Okay, really? Like, think about this: if you're killing 6 million people, I don't think you give a fuck if people know why you're doing it at that point. Unless you're our
Well,
government
it's
with
almost
COVID.
as if, you know, she has no like educational, like she doesn't even know the history of it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, most people learn about it in high school, or, you know, God forbid you go to, you know, the Holocaust Museum or something
Mm-hmm.
and see with your own eyes what took place. I mean,
Well, she took the
it
name
was horrific.
Goldberg. She adopted the name
Right.
Goldberg. She obviously had connections to the Jewish community. If you are willing, and you know her reasoning for that, right? Again, because the acting industry, Hollywood, is primarily run by Jews. And she thought that
Right.
changing her name from what it was, whatever, something Johnson's her last name, to Whoopi Goldberg, when she sent her resume out, that it would get them reading it. And honestly, it probably worked great. I'm not saying don't do it, but it's just funny that, okay, so you're aware that you work for a bunch of Jews. And you're aware of their presence in the whole entire media and entertainment industry. And then you're going to go out and start speaking on the Holocaust without really even looking it up. Like, how? I
Against your
guarantee
own
you.
bosses, really. I mean,
Yeah.
you would think she would sit there as she was saying it, because there was a moment there. I don't know if you recall how it went, but when she said it wasn't about the Jews, and everybody was kind of quiet for a second, and then someone says, yeah, or something like that in the background, and she doubled down and said it again. Well, in that moment, in her mind, she could have thought, oh, I better really think about what I'm saying here. My boss is Jewish, you know?
When Joy Behar looks at you in disgust, you know that you really messed up. Well, okay, if you're not a conservative and she looks at you in disgust, okay? Because she looks at all conservatives like that all the time. But the look, I don't know if no one has seen the videos that's listening on Facebook or Podbean, go watch the video in the exchange. Okay, Eric says Whoopi Goldberg, who starred in Jumpin' Jack Flash, Ghost, and Sister Act films, isn't the Whoopi Goldberg who co-hosts The View. What do you mean? It's the same.
She was completely different back then,
Oh,
but
yeah.
but then The View really just turned her into something that fans of hers would probably not be unlikely to recognize.
Well, I don't.
You remember when she was dating Ted Danson and he got in trouble for doing blackface at some
Ooh, wow.
awards party?
That's
And
right.
She was sitting there with him when he did it, laughing at him. Way back then.
She probably painted his face. And then
Probably,
I guarantee you, when the whole blackface thing came out later on, she was criticizing him for it.
Right.
I bet you she did. And it's her fault. She probably painted his damn face. They all are. Come on. They all are. When I was in high school, Obama got elected. You know what the #1 Halloween costume was when I was in high school? The fucking Obama mask. White people and black people wore it. So what, we're going to go back?
Well, and it all
go ahead.
It all goes back to kind of that we are so offended by every little thing, and you have to be so politically correct now that you can't even make an error without, the whole wrath of everybody coming down on you anymore. That's what's frightening. They talk about comedians not being able to even tell jokes anymore because everybody's so offended.
Exactly. And that's exactly why I'm going to just be firm on my stance of her not being suspended, because then I am no different than someone who is offended and wants her to be punished. I wasn't, I thought it was stupid what she said, but again, they pay her to say stuff like that. So it's their own fault. It's her fault. There's going to be backlash. They're not going to like it, but she still shouldn't have any kind of punishment. It's the whole principle. I know it's a weak punishment. She'll be back. Not a big deal. She's not canceled, but it's just the fact that they are taking action against her. Gosh, I can't believe it's just still unbelievable that she said, no, the Germans lied about it. Oh my God.
On a lighter note, Mike, I wanted to tell you, hey, I really liked your new pick. It looks like the cover of a book, man. That should be what your book cover is.
Well, the book cover is actually an American flag that's going downwards. But I was going to put it on there, and I was going to put the flag in the background, but it didn't look good. It was like HD or it's like a 4K picture with a 368 p quality picture, and it just didn't look right. So I liked that instead. That's probably the best thing I've ever done, and it's still not that great. But
it looks good. $5 foot long,
Yeah, definitely. And so we'll see how it plays out. The trolls got my other picture. They can have that. That's fine. I got the new one. But
I'll let you be, man. Thanks for giving me the opportunity to chat.
Oh, no. Thank you. Woody Bush says, I think it's too profession. Need to get into head toe camo. But then no one would ever be able to see me, Woody. That's a running joke that me, Britt, and her brother have when we see someone wearing camo. If someone's wearing a camouflage shirt and pants, we'll be like, oh my God, it's a head walking around, it's just a joke, and because that old commercial they had. But he said lots of guns and American flags in the background. I have an American flag, but it's up in my room, so I didn't want to take it down. I can get the guns out, though. I have a couple of episodes had the AR-15 sitting here when I was doing some demonstrations back when the Rittenhouse trial was. I could always do that. I've thought about doing that, the guns. Now, the next thing I was going to talk about, Joe Rogan, Eric. Everyone wants Joe Rogan canceled.
That's right.
There's probably not going to be a lot to say about this because I think it's pretty freaking stupid. But I do want to just put a...
Well,
Go ahead.
I would say this about Joe Rogan, that him issuing that apology there, I don't think Joe Rogan really had anything to apologize for. As far as like the musicians, threatened to boycott Spotify over Joe Rogan and his choice of guests that he's had on his show recently.
Yeah, I
Most
agree.
notably the world-renowned doctors, because his apology right there, whether he realizes this or not, that when you apologize for things, whether you need to be apologizing or not, is you're basically just giving the woke cancel culture mob a win.
I agree.
And you probably see why Donald Trump never apologized for some of the unflattering, unpolished things that he might have said when, during his presidency, before his presidency, or after his presidency.
Yeah, and who was it? I don't know if it was in another Podbean show. Was it Chill Will or no? It was in Cap's show, and it was with, I can't remember the guy's name, but they kind of were talking about this, and he had asked me about my thoughts, and I said, stop caring about what people think, and when you say something, you live with it, like.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, especially me, I will say things that come out, and I will say before I think about it. Sometimes, and I'll look back and I'm like, ooh. Every once in a while, you need to dish out an apology. But some of the best advice I ever got from a guy that I worked with when I first got into finance, because we are on the phone all the time with either clients or new prospects or whatever. You're always on the phone, and sometimes you get caught up. Everyone makes mistakes. The best advice he ever said, he said, Michael, don't ever say you're sorry. And I'm like, well, what do you mean? What's up, Chris? He goes, the only thing you say is you say you apologize. If you're talking to someone like, Eric, I apologize. But when you say, Eric, I'm sorry, that means you did something wrong. And you're admitting guilt.
Mm-hmm.
And that's true. And it does, it's little terms like that. Like, hey, I apologize if I said something you don't like. Sounds a lot better than, hey, I'm sorry I said that. Because when you say, I'm sorry I said that, you knew you shouldn't have said it. And you know that now you got to kind of go back on it. When you say, hey, Eric, I apologize for saying what I said, that sounds a lot better. And that doesn't sound like, you didn't mean it or that you're not going to stand behind it. It just means I apologize that you didn't like it. And that's how it should be. It's John says, if you're quick to forgive others, you'll be forgiven by others. Yes. Dose says, I would like to apologize to Eric for messing with him so much. He said, in the legal world, the crime world, an apology is iffy. Yeah. I'm not a lawyer though. So,
yeah.
But just getting back to the Joe Rogan thing, I agree with you, Eric. I don't think he should have made an apology. And when I first saw that he did it, because I watched it on his YouTube, I'm sitting there, I'm like, Joe, come on. Don't do this. Who cares? And I know you don't care. Right? I think what Joe, and I'm just speaking,
Well,
I don't know what Joe Rogan thinks or what's going through his head. I'm just.
Well, we don't really know Joe Rogan on a personal level.
No.
And he doesn't know us either.
Exactly. But just what I think happened is because people are saying I'm pulling my music from your show, I don't think he knows the exact financial fallout for Spotify. So he may feel bad for Spotify, like, damn, I'm a result, maybe they're losing some money. Or he may feel bad that some people that maybe like Neil Young and listen to his music on Spotify now won't have that access. I don't think it's because of what he said. And if you listen to the whole thing, I kind of get it to where he's like, hey, I didn't mean to offend anyone. I had these people. Where I thought he went wrong is when he said, when he starts saying things about how he can change, I don't think he should have done that. He should have said, from now on, we're going to put a disclosure that this show's about COVID. But I'm not sorry for having people that are professionals in an industry come on my show and talk. Because he often says that, hey, I have people from this side of the alley with this viewpoint. He has people that are conspiracy theorists. He has everyone on there. And he gives everyone a voice, and he does a very good job at it, and that's why his show is so popular. He doesn't need to justify why he's having people on a show. Yeah, he doesn't need to justify it. He's far past justifying, and apologizing for anyone that he has on that show. And people are going to get on Spotify, and these singers are going to try and push this issue, to have Joe Rogan removed. And that's what I wanted to go into. Here's the thing. Joe Rogan signed a $100 million contract immediately with Spotify. I don't remember what the exact terms, if it was over a certain number of years, but I know it's worth $100 million. That immediately means that Spotify...
I would think probably close to a decade.
Well, whatever it may be, if Spotify made that deal, that means that Spotify is thinking they are going, or they not thinking, they expect to get their investment back and more within a certain time period. Let's say it's 10 years. They expect to make that $100 million plus back over a period of time. That's a substantial investment for something like Spotify because, Eric, you may know the answer off the top of your head. You may not. Do you know how many people Spotify gained or how many users Spotify gained? I saw the number somewhere. It was a lot. As soon as Joe Rogan got transferred over, it was a lot.
I don't really have an exact figure off my head, but I would imagine probably millions, give or take.
It may have been like 2 million people, 2 million users. I saw the number somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
But with that said, let's say he brought 2 million people over. Those people are going over there to listen to Joe Rogan, right? But when they're over there, they're not going over there to just listen to Neil Young. When you listen to music, you listen to a playlist. Which means that, let's say there's 20 singers on that playlist, only one of them is gone. They're still there listening to music, right? Now, if they went over there to listen to Neil Young and they have a Neil Young playlist, that's different. But they didn't. They went over there because of Joe Rogan. That means Joe Rogan brought all of those people over there. Here's the other thing. People that are on
Joe
Spotify...
Rogan's making Spotify so much money.
Exactly. It's a different... It's a completely different thing. Joe Rogan, they would have to... A singer, and that's what I wanted to ask, that's what I wanted to address, that was what the question of this topic was. What do you think it would take for Spotify to pull Joe Rogan? Like, it would take singers, maybe like a Bon Jovi, as far as going back, like older stuff, it'd be like a Bon Jovi, these large rappers from the 80s and 90s. Yeah, and then all the new people, right, combined. And I said Bon Jovi, I know he's laughing. I'm just saying, I'm thinking of people like that are older, that are popular. And it would take a lot of them. And then all of the new artists as well. Because Joe Rogan is creating an economy on Spotify. He's bringing over users, and then once they're done listening to Joe Rogan, they're also using that same app to listen to music, right? But a singer, no one is going to very few people are going to Spotify and say, hey, I want to listen to this specific singer. No, I'll go to YouTube to do that normally. You go to Spotify to build a playlist and listen to the playlist. So it's not just one singer bringing people to Spotify, but it is one podcaster that's bringing people to Spotify. And it so happens to be the largest voice in the world right now. And, for people to get on Joe Rogan about some of these people he's having on his show, like people that were involved in making the mRNA vaccine, really? In fact, they're the most credible people. It's funny that you have CNN and these liberal medias are mad and saying Joe Rogan's an idiot. He doesn't know anything. He's not a doctor. He's not this. He's not that. Meanwhile, Joe Rogan has people that are far more credible in the fields than CNN is having on. So who is the better person to listen to here? Some podunk doctor with an opinion, or the guy that was directly involved and holds a lot of patents on the vaccine? You tell me. So, what's up, Mr. A?
Let's pretend, Michael, you're Juanita Broderick, and let's pretend I'm Lisa Myers.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to say this, Michael. as like with Joe, or else pretend you're Joe Rogan. I've got some good news, and I've got some bad news. The good news is the guests on your show are credible. The bad news is the guests on your show, they're too credible.
Yeah, that's literally
because
what
they
it
don't
is.
want an enlightened society like George Carlin would say. Remember,
Yeah.
they only want obedient workers.
The problem is that Joe Rogan is showing them the fuck up on their own job. They're supposed to be the reporters and the journalist, and Joe Rogan takes them to school on how to actually do that job. Because he sits there and he listens and he asks good questions.
I think Joe Rogan is basically the next greatest thing since, say, like Mike Wallace or David Brinkley or Chet Huntley or Paul Harvey or any of the other legendary journalists from like 50 and 60 years ago.
I agree. I don't know how long it will last, but right now, people just need to leave it be. Here's the thing. If you don't like what someone is saying, just don't listen to them. If you don't like what Whoopi Goldberg said, don't listen to her. You don't have to. This isn't North Korea where they play the same damn government propaganda on the TV screen about how Kim Jong-un fought the Americans himself. You know? In North Korea, they watch Kim Jong-un flying the fighter jet and dropping nukes on the American monster. Him, his dad, and his grandfather. They were a 3-man fighting force and killed 1 million Americans. That's what this kind of shit they see every day, not by choice. But we don't have that here in the United States. In the United States, you can buy a package that gets you 25,000 channels. If you don't like what someone says, you have 24,999 other channels to go fucking watch and ignore it. Now I'm cussing a little more. I'm sorry. But that is true. No one's holding a gun to your head here in the United States saying you need to listen to it. And that's what's crazy to me. And going back to like John, and that just backs up what I said about my opinion about Whoopi Goldberg and how they shouldn't have suspended her, right? Because there are other ways to just actually do it the right way. If you don't like something someone says, ignore them. Move on. Look, think about this. It goes back to and I'm going to like coin this term because I feel like I created this. But if you're walking in the woods and you see a venomous snake, would you rather it be out in the open where you can see it and avoid it? Or would you want it to be covered up and camouflaged to where you could go and step on it and it bites you? You'd want to be able to see it and avoid it. And it's the same thing with people saying stupid things and racist things and all that stuff. If they're doing it, you just don't need to associate with that person. But if you're censoring them, like John with with ABC censoring Whoopi Goldberg, and then she comes back and now she says, well, I can't say things along this line, or she's going to be hesitant to voice opinions about certain topics. They have then formed her own narrative for her. And at that point, you don't know. She's not being real. You don't know if you should ignore Whoopi Goldberg because she's only saying what other people want her to say at that point. And like Ellen DeGeneres, think about this. You have Ellen DeGeneres was this great person on TV. She was this great personality, and come to find out she was a big bitch behind the scenes, and people did not like her. But how do people in society know to avoid her when people aren't saying anything about this? So it's just, it all kind of plays into that. And that's just the way I see this. We don't need to cancel people. If you don't want to make any money, don't go watch their stuff. If enough people agree or disagree with someone is saying, like if a big YouTuber that's earning money on the advertising says something really screwed up and no one likes it, they're not going to watch the show. He's not going to make any money. That's simple. It's a simple equation. I honestly, I think Spotify is going to tell these singers to go jump in a lake for a long time because there's probably going to be a lot more. There's already been a few others that have come out. And I saw something funny the other day.
I like to say, Spotify will tell them to go pound sand, or slightly like to say, go kick rocks.
Yeah, well, I saw something funny the other day on Facebook. It's a meme. It said it had different age groups, and it said ages 0 through 18. Who's Neil Young? And then it said 18 to 30. Was it 18 to 40? Is Neil Young still alive? I didn't know that. And then 40 to it was like 40 plus. It was like, what the hell is Spotify? It's basically saying that the people that even listen to Neil Young aren't listening to Neil Young on Spotify anyway. So, and that's all I have to say about that. Now, I think, gosh, that COVID cough. Shan said he is married to Daryl Hannah. He's married to a guy.
Daryl Hannah's an actress. She played the mermaid in Splish Splash.
A girl named Daryl. That's a unique name for a woman. So the next thing, now I can't remember what the podcast name was, but it was just live a little bit ago, Eric, and it was about gun violence in America.
Uh-huh.
And I listened to it for a little bit. I started making some comments, but they wouldn't reply, and I didn't want to call in, so I figured I'd just come and talk about it on my show. And they were talking about violence, like crime, and it was a black woman hosting the show, and she was talking about crime in inner cities and stuff, and they were making decent points, but they started bringing up gun violence, and they started saying things like it's because of those ghost guns. They have these ghost guns that are easily accessible, and you can't track them. They don't have a serial number. Blah 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 blah. I'm like, I don't think you guys understand what a ghost gun is. Yeah, by definition, a ghost gun is a gun without a serial number that's not registered. But it's not very easily accessible. Either they've had it, because I'm pretty sure, at least in the majority of states, if you buy a new gun now, obviously I'm not talking about a private sale, but if you go to the gun store and buy it, I think they make you register it now. But they probably always have. I've never bought a gun in a gun store. My family's had more than enough guns that I'd never had to go buy one. But now what you're seeing with ghost guns is they're the 80% lower, AR-15s that you can buy, and then you can buy the kit, and you have to mill the lower yourself and put the gun together. It still costs money, and it's not very easily acceptable. Now, it's not a very difficult thing to do, but it's not like going and buying the firearm and being able to shoot it that same day. No, it's like putting a big puzzle together and takes some work. And the people that are actually doing that are not the ones that are going out and shooting anyone. These are easy statistics to find. Exactly, Chris. It's more expensive to buy a ghost gun. It is, because those parts are going to be, each individual part is marked up. And then usually I've looked and, I'm trying to do it and build one, because I still want to build one. And I heard that you could do it for about the same amount as you would buy one for, and I found that that's really not true, especially not now. Either places are sold out, or it's going to cost you a decent amount of money. That guy says, I have everything I would need to build one. I even have a metal lathe. Am I saying that right? Thanks, dude, Sean. So, but regardless, the people that have the ghost guns are not the people that are out shooting people. They're not. And then they went down this road. They said, oh, in some states, you have concealed carry and you have open carry. And in some states, you don't need a license, to open carry. What if everyone was just open carrying? Would that make things safer? And that was the question. Would things be safer if everyone was open carrying? And another lady on the show followed up and said, Absolutely not. Because then you would have all the white supremacists and racists and terrorists out carrying guns. And I'm like, they're already fucking carrying guns. They're just concealing it. There's no difference really between an open carry state or concealed carry state or whatever kind of carry state. Okay? They still got a gun. The only difference is that you know they have the gun when they're open carrying. So really, it probably would be safer because everyone would know that the guy has a gun. Don't mess with him. But when you're in a concealed carry state, right, you don't know at that point. But the whole basis on their argument, I'm sitting here, and that goes back to, Whoopi Goldberg and her stupid comments on the Holocaust. Like, do you guys not research anything before you get on and start talking about things publicly? I mean, I'm assuming the whole point in you coming and doing a podcast is because you want people to listen to you and you want to get downloads and voice. You want to spread your word and your conversation, especially if you're going to sit here and talk about topics in society that you want changed and ask questions about things that you want changed. Why would you not get the most information you could? You know what that's called? That's called irrationality. When someone bases decisions and conversation using no information when it's readily available to them. If you're an irrational thinker, that means you're just going off the whim and you're not using anything to justify your decision. Don't be irrational, be rational. And when it comes to gun violence, especially here in the United States, there's a plethora of great sources I don't think there's one statistic on firearms that you can't find. If you want to find how many people have been shot in the balls this year, you probably could find that. So, the gun thing really bothers me because I'm not one of those people that just like all gung-ho. Look, I have guns. We have a lot of guns. I love guns. But I'm just not one of those people, like I'm not out shooting every weekend, I may carry one every once in a while, but I really don't. Like, I'm not that guy. I'm not. But the topic bothers me, especially when there's people and politicians and regular people that are out trying to, spread a false narrative. What's up, Woody?
Hey, buddy. How's it going?
Good. How are you?
Oh, not too bad. I have one quick comment. This is one topic that fucking hurts me, especially here, the way things are being pushed to the general public.
Yeah.
But they're trying to take. Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Go.
Like they're trying to take guns away from legal gun owners, and the way you see it on the news and they're pitched it to the public like killing all kinds of people, but when you look at
you're kind of you're kind of muffled. Can you repeat it when you're done?
Hang on.
Yeah. We can hear you good now. But so yeah.
How's that? Is that better there?
Yeah, that's a lot better. Yeah. Go ahead and say what you said because some people didn't hear you.
Just with what's happening with the gun control in Canada and them trying to take away, mostly what they're going after is legally owned firearms, and the way they're spewing it to the public is, these guns are killing all kinds of people, but when you look at the statistics, it's like 99% of gun violence in Canada is done with illegal firearms, and they're not doing fuck all about that, right?
With illegal firearms.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's how it is here. It's the same way.
Yeah, so why, and most people that don't own guns or, think my guns are killing people don't understand the process that a person has to go through to be able to own a legal firearm.
Exactly.
So,
that's what I think is funny.
Yeah,
that's what I think is funny is He said we got Temple in your pocket. But this is what I think is funny. Just hitting on what you said. They for some reason are under the assumption that someone who's gonna go commit murder, or let's say like a gang member in the inner city, that may go commit a drive-by. They think that they're going and just buying these guns that are gonna be you can just go and track. Like, oh yeah, that guy. Let's go look at the local gun store to see who bought the gun. Right now they do that, but I would imagine a lot of times that they can find where that gun was bought. It's not the original owner that went and shot someone. It's probably stolen or sold a couple times. Like, no one is going to the freaking gun mart down the street saying, hey, let me do an FBI background check, buy this 45 1911, and go blow someone's brains the fuck out right afterwards. They're not doing that. If they did, then they that's I mean, come on. Maybe Whoopi Goldberg, because she doesn't think about doing things before she talks. But she's like I said, I just went on about irrationality here, so someone might do that. But at the same time, dude, Sean. But at the same time, I hate this argument too. Like, what is there? Like, an average of 35,000, 36,000 gun deaths. There's probably a hell of a lot more in 2020. I don't know what it was last year. I don't check it every year. I just know every once in a while, dude. It's 36,000 deaths from firearms in the United States every year. Was it 75% of them are suicide?
Yeah.
If you're gonna stick a gun to your head and shoot yourself, and you reach that point, then you either, if you didn't have the gun, or another. Yeah, you either would have hung yourself, you would have jumped off a building, or you would have done something else too.
I had a friend's brother just hang himself yesterday, so I know exactly what you're saying. Like,
dude, Sean says, "Hey, do you still have the receipt?" That's like for real, Sean. But yeah, they would have committed that crime anyway. Then they also put in that same category police shootings. And they put in that same category accidents, negligent discharges, not accidental discharge. They also put in that same category self-defense. Here's the thing. Do you know how many deaths there were from a rifle in the United States? Either last year or the year before it was that I looked. Do you know how many there were?
Probably not many.
It was like a handful above or below 250 total. Out of 36,000, 250. Now, an AR-15 is in that classification of a rifle. So that means that less than 1% of the gun deaths were caused by the guns that they want to get rid of. Great, you ban AR-15s. We still have 35,736 fucking gun deaths. You didn't solve a problem.
Yeah.
Like, hell, go. How many guns do people do paintball guns kill every year? Go look at that problem.
Or put some money into more gun control, illegal guns crossing the border and coming into the country.
Yep.
Or something that's actually going to do something about the gun violence, right?
Or the gun or drugs. Like, okay, gangs. Let's look at what the number one economy for a gang would be. Is it drugs? Why don't we clean up the drug problem? Why don't we start there? You know what the problem? And I still can't understand why the United States. I don't know if that guy's still in here, but he said, oh yeah, you're a conservative and you're open to like marijuana. Like, I don't mind marijuana. I see why, there's an argument on why it should be illegal. Because I think if you're sitting around smoking pot all day, at least for me, it makes you less motivational, right? But I don't think that's the reason why it's illegal. That's the only good argument I've heard of, right? Because they have cigarettes are legal and alcohol's legal, and the health issues with those are far worse than smoking marijuana or taking an edible. But why haven't they legalized it? If they could tax the hell out of it, like they do cigarettes.
They are here. They are here now. That's they really fucked it up in Canada when they legalized it for recreational, because before they had a really good medicinal system going, and people that needed it got it and were able to access it and good stuff and whatever. But as soon as they came out with the recreational, all the medicinal growers, the government approved medicinal growers, decided there was more money in recreational, so the medical system went to the wayside, and now it's like, now they're charging twice as much, but you can't, for recreational stuff, the government's taxing it, and you can't get anything for medicinal at half decent rate. So yeah,
that's the thing
stupid.
is they need to, because as soon as, like you said, as soon as they legalize it, they're gonna put hefty regulations on it, right? They need not to do that. The government needs to not freaking step over the line too much. I'm all for taxing it, but oh my God, Pook, you did not. After we just talked about the whole gun thing, you're gonna vote for Beto O'Rourke. Come on. Okay. He's laughing. But
It's Chris.
yeah,
Fisticuffs.
so like if you're gonna tax it, don't put a lot of people will buy it. You'll make the tax revenue. Do not put a freaking 25% sales tax on it. Don't do that. Just tax it with a regular sales tax. Don't tax it anything further, right? Regulate who can sell it. Maybe make them get a license. Do not make the barriers to entry very hard. You still want to promote competition. You want to earn the tax revenue, and you want to keep the prices down. You need to look at what they need to do is they need to look at, okay, what is the street value of marijuana? And maybe do it by state.
The street value here is that the market is so flooded with like really high quality. So there's so much you can buy a pound of like really, really top shelf weed for $400 here right now.
That guy says I would totally watch Whoopi and Joy fist fight. That would be that would be the largest ballot. Think about it, if Jake Paul and Logan Paul could have that as a ballot one night, that would bring in over $1 billion. A Joy Reid Whoopi Goldberg boxing match would bring in over 12 figures in revenue for that ballot. I guarantee it. Joy versus Whoopi. Whoopi would beat the hell out of Joy Reid. He said I would pay big money. But yeah, the government needs to kind of stop being so selfish with it. And don't make barriers to entry too hard. Don't tax the shit out of it. Just have a regular sales tax. And I don't think there's laws on how strong alcohol can be now, right? Hell, you can have 150 proof alcohol. Is that 75% alcohol? Like, don't just start saying, oh, it can only be so strong with the marijuana. Put laws in place. Hey, you get caught driving and you're stoned, you're done. Like it's a DUI at that point, and maybe even make the punishment for a DUI worse to try and disincentivize people from doing it. But that's how you would kill the at least the marijuana industry. Now the fentanyl deal, I think there's gonna have to be like a literal war over that. Either in Mexico or in Afghanistan or whoever, because you can't just allow that stuff to go and happen. The fentanyl stuff, that's bad stuff, that opium. That's a whole different conversation. But some of these other drugs, like marijuana, nah. Legalize it, tax it, and stop taking, take less tax money from me and make it up from all the potheads that want to smoke it. But yeah, going back to the whole gun violence thing, we don't need so many stupid people having an opinion on. Here I am contradicting myself from what I said earlier. It's just crazy to me that people will talk about guns and they have no idea even how they work. They don't know anything. They just know that gun go bang and that's it. I saw a video the other day, and this guy made an animation. It looked extremely realistic, right? And it's a gun shooting into an apple, and the idiot didn't have the projectile coming out of the barrel. He had the whole fucking bullet, casing and all, shot out of the barrel. He had everything else right. He had the freaking the rotation of the bullet. Everything was like, wow, that's a great animation, except you left the whole fucking casing on it. So, like, that's how you know someone is, because he took all that time to make this animation to the finest detail, except the biggest detail that there was.
And these are the idiots trying to take our guns away.
Yeah. Like, who was it? Oh. Well, and then look at the guy that was trying to prosecute Kyle Rittenhouse. Look at all the crazy things. There's no left-handed or right-handed firearms. That's crazy. Like, comments like that just make you laugh.
And the judge in the Kyle Rittenhouse case and the prosecutor there, and of course the prosecutor getting his ass handed to him multiple times by that judge.
Oh yeah. The facial expressions from Rittenhouse's attorney and that whole thing was so funny. He actually ended up speaking out one time, and the judge told him to stop talking when the other guy was talking, so he just started making these facial expressions. Who wants to open a left-handed gun store? So they actually do that, guy. They do have left-handed guns, and all it is basically they just switch a couple of features on the left, especially how the bullet ejects, so that way it's not like an AR, or semi-automatic, it'll eject out to the left and not be flying up in your face and burning you. So they do have little things like that, which means that the guy was wrong. There can be a left-handed firearm, but it wasn't like, it had nothing to do with the trial, and it showed just his whole comments on the whole thing. But then I love this. This is my favorite argument, and I think I even hear some gun people make this argument, but I freaking love this. And this is how you know that the majority of these people have no idea even on how the dangers that are involved with a firearm, okay? Because they make this statement like, wow, that guy had an AR-15 and you were worried about the guy with the pistol? Why do you need an AR-15 when he only has a pistol? Really? It only takes one bullet to kill you. I'm sorry, but the guy with the pistol, that was literally an argument made in the Rittenhouse trial. I can't remember if it was made directly in the Rittenhouse trial or if I saw a comment outside of it. But when Gage Groschwitz ran up there with a pistol and Rittenhouse had his AR-15, they were like, he didn't need to shoot him. He only had a pistol. He had way more firepower than him. I'm like, the guy was 5 freaking feet away, and a pistol is just as lethal as an AR-15. It takes one bullet. That's it. It doesn't matter if you have a machine gun or a freaking .22 revolver, single action. Hell, Alex Baldwin shot 2 people with one fucking gun. One shot. So, let me go back and look at it. He said he was following his local laws. He was legally allowed to possess the AR, but not a handgun. I think that's the comment you're talking about. Yeah, you're right. The reason being, the loophole with that, Chris, is because, again, the AR-15 is a rifle, and hunting's a big thing, right? The hunting laws, even though we don't have firearms to hunt, we have them to protect ourselves, but the hunting laws is what makes that possible. And I'm pretty sure I'm right on that. Maybe I'm not, but I'm pretty sure that's why it was before, at least in some states, where you could buy a rifle at 18 but not a handgun. You had to wait till you're 21. Now I think a lot of the states have changed that law to where you had to be 21 to buy both. But I think hunting had a lot to do with that for the most part. And again, it's not, they don't make laws based off of specific models. They make laws based off of what that gun classifies as. If it's classified as a rifle, it's classified as a rifle. Doesn't matter if it's an AR-15 or a Browning Safari Mark II. It doesn't matter. So, yeah, 21, Jester, is the typical for pistols. I just know, like, Florida changed the rifle age to 21. I believe it was 18. I think Tennessee did the same thing. And this was in the last couple years. So, it was different at one point. But to say something so stupid, and what's crazy is that the people that are a part of those arguments never pick up on that. Why don't they? I don't see why they never pick up on it. They keep saying like, "Oh yeah, that guy was, he way outdid him in firepower. He had a freaking Gatling gun, and the other guy had a paintball gun, or not a paintball gun because that won't kill you, but a freaking .22 revolver, right? That's not fair. It only takes one shot. That's a stupid argument. It's stupid. A gun will kill you, no matter what. A well-placed bullet will kill anyone. Doesn't matter who you are. Doesn't matter what gun it is. Doesn't matter what the situation is. There are certain places in your body, you get shot one time, you're dead. It's all it takes. It's not like holding an AR-15 just automatically makes you less, you know, I don't even know. I'm fired about this. I can't even think now, Eric. Just said, yes, most states are 18 for long guns. The hunting rule allows possession under 18. In Wisconsin, it did apply to that. And that's why, because he was 17 when that happened. That's why he was able to get away with it with that loophole. And so I just think that as far as you going to be able to buy the long gun at 18, I think they did that because of hunting purposes. But I could be wrong. It could be that they thought, an 18-year-old was justified as an adult to go buy it regardless. But then why wouldn't you let him buy a handgun at 18 if that were the case, right? So I don't know. But then again, it's politicians making these laws, and obviously they don't understand anything when they do. So I think we have about 12 minutes left. If anyone else wants to call in and weigh in, you can do it now. I have gone over my talking points. Dude, Sean said, you're killing it. Get their asses. Thanks, Sean. I appreciate it. But yeah, if anyone else wants to call in now, do so or forever hold your peace. And I know we have some gun people. We have Jester, we have Sean, all them, these gun people in here that would have an opinion on this. But, I mean, Eric, you got anything? Jester says, hold on.
Nothing I can really think of. I think Jester is indicating that he's going to jump on.
Yeah.
Take your time, Jester.
We got 12 minutes. We got 11 minutes now, Jester. Let me see what else we got. Oh, okay. So while we're waiting on Jester, speaking of irrational politicians that make stupid decisions, Biden is sending, I believe, more soldiers to Ukraine. And the other night, maybe Woody Bush or that dude Sean may have been in the podcast, the New Zealand one, Liberty NZ.
Yeah, I was there.
Yep. He had that lady from Romania on there and was saying that Putin came on their news and was saying that there's no real threat of him invading Ukraine, and that
that's right. He did say that.
And that the United States is making this way more than what it is. Now, I said this earlier. I think Putin is just playing a face. I don't think that's true. Why would you ever? I think Putin is way smarter than Joe Biden, because Joe Biden's getting up there and publicly announcing what his next move is going to be. And I think Putin is a lot smarter than that. Putin knows that we need the element of surprise. So why the fuck am I going to announce publicly if I'm going to go start blowing people up when I know what Biden's going to do? Like, oh, I know Biden's going to freeze my assets and put sanctions on me. And I know he's going to have troops over here. So I'm just going to start announcing when exactly I'm going to do this. Putin's a lot smarter than that. I can tell you that. But Joe Biden, on the other hand, is allowing Putin to have this role. He's literally giving, like, he's creating the path for Putin to walk on to make it like I mean, he's just giving him a victory. It's crazy to me. What's up, Jester?
Oh, not much, guys. How's it going this evening?
Pretty good. How about you?
Good, man. I came in late, but I heard guns, and then I heard call in specifically to talk about guns, so I got excited.
Yeah.
Hey, Jester.
We can talk about
Hey, Woody Bush.
Night
how's
for
it
lucky
going?
night, Chester.
And
I
this
I
just have
know,
to tell
right?
Chris, Chris, I wasn't peeing. I was filling up a bucket of water, and I'm a contractor, and I'm tiling a fucking unit right now. He's getting me mistaken.
Look, we have a blue collar audience for those of you on Facebook. All right, so
Blue or red?
huh?
Oh no, that's redneck.
Redneck, yeah. But Jester, now I want to say this doesn't count as the podcast that we're gonna do. We're gonna do a whole show together too. But I do want to hear your input. And basically, what I was talking about was I was on a live show earlier, listening to them talk about gun violence in America, and they were saying that ghost guns were the problem, and that they were so easily accessible, and that they're not registered. You can't track them. You can get them. They're so easily acceptable, and these guys are going around and shooting at them. I'm like, I don't think people owning ghost guns are the ones out shooting anyone.
Okay, so when we talk about ghost guns, there are two sides to that. And the first side to that is, for a long time we manufactured firearms in the US without putting serial numbers on them.
Yes.
Okay? And it is still legal to possess them if they were purchased and grandfathered in prior to the new rules and laws being put in place. I actually own one. I own a shotgun that was passed down through my family with no serial numbers or anything. It was just made in the time that these didn't exist. Now, these new, what they call ghost guns that are being there's actual ghost guns that are being manufactured, but something that somebody scratches a serial number off or still has the qualification as a ghost gun. So they're using this as a broad spectrum term across the board, right? If they say ghost gun, it just simply means cannot be tracked back to the purchaser, where it was sold, anything else, because the ATF is keeping records of all this. Okay.
Agreed.
When you talk about gun violence in the US, they like to push it like it's this big, huge number. But the sad truth is it's not. I mean, do you have a lot of gun deaths in the US? Yes. Do you have more deaths due to car wrecks and cancer and other things out there in vehicular homicide? When you add these things up, guns are kind of the least of your worries.
Well, let me
homicides in general. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, and I don't know if you knew this number, but I stated it earlier, I think, before you got in here. Do you know, in 2020, we had all those gun deaths. Do you know how many of those were committed with a rifle?
Ooh, no, I do not.
It's just under or just above 250.
Wow.
Yeah, it was hardly anything.
That's a pretty low number.
Yeah, and in that classification are AR-15s, AKs, all that. That's a rifle.
Yes.
So that's what I was saying, and what I said earlier basically is like, okay, great. You let's say you even completely banned all of those guns. You literally just got rid of less than 1% of the problem that you're trying to prevent, right? So it's stupid. And then on the ghost gun deal, you're right. And as far as with what you're saying about the ghost guns, going against what they said though about it being easily accessible, either you already had them, right? Or you have to find someone or that has it that you're buying it from, or you can go buy like an 80% lower, mill it out yourself, and build it yourself. Either way, it's not easily accessible, at least not to the people that are going out and doing the shootings. Because a lot of the people that classify under what you're saying owns the ghost guns, which is maybe people that had it passed down or whatnot, they're not the majority of the people going out and committing murder. Not even close.
Well, it's interesting you bring up the around 250 for rifle deaths, because you kind of got to think about two things with this. Number one, they're not classifying these deaths, whether they're self-defense, whether it's like gang-on-gang crime. They're not classifying this. This is just gun deaths, right?
Yep.
So a lot of gun deaths are self-defense deaths, and nobody's carrying around an AR-15 for self-defense. They're carrying a handgun,
unless you're Kyle
which is where a lot of these. Well, yeah, of course. But yeah, that's the thing. I mean, a lot of these.
So 3 of the 250 were committed that we know of with an AR, or not even 3. 2 of the ones that we know of in 2020 were committed with AR-15. Sorry.
So 3, and do we know out of those three, I mean, how many were self-defense? How many were unjustified? Do we have a number on that?
Well, two people out of the three that got shot died. So 2 of those deaths were justified because he got found innocent for self-defense, and was found that he was acting in self-defense. I'm talking about the Rittenhouse. I'm making a joke about the Kyle Rittenhouse shootings. That was in 2020, the same year.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I didn't quite pick up on that first, but now I get it. So,
Yeah.
But basically, what you're saying is 1 death out of the rifle deaths was not a justified killing.
Yeah, well, when I said 3, I was referring to 3 people that got shot. Really, only 2 died, so there wasn't even 3 deaths. There was only 2 out of the 250 we know of that were justified.
Gotcha. Okay, I follow now.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. But no, just to bring this back to anybody, I try to tell people this all the time, and this was the main reason I jumped in. I just wanted to say this one thing.
Mm-hmm.
I've grown up around guns my whole life. Since I was 5 years old, I possessed a firearm. Okay. It was the nature of my family. It was how we grew up. It was where we grew up. All right. A gun is a tool.
Mm-hmm.
With the right craftsman that's using it, it'll do no harm. It'll cause no injuries. It's not the gun itself that is lethal, that's out there killing people. It is the operator behind it.
Exactly.
And that's what everybody needs to understand. Human beings are psychopaths.
Mm-hmm.
If somebody wants to kill somebody, they're going to figure out a way to do it. They don't need a gun.
Yeah.
Timothy McVeigh killed how many people without picking up a gun?
Yep.
Just saying.
With very easily accessible ingredients. Fertilizer and diesel fuel. That's it. So we have about a minute and a half left. We'll go ahead and close it out because Shannon's show's starting. For those of you on Facebook, go follow me. Share the show. Go ahead, Eric, actually.
Well, and if you feel like doing any shows tomorrow night, Podbean's primetime is very vacant. No other big names I can see on the Podbean schedule.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we'll probably be on, what did you say, primetime, 6, 7 o'clock or so? That's probably when I'll do it.
Give or take.
Yeah. So on Facebook, be expecting that time. And we'll go. I appreciate everyone coming and listening. We're going to head over to Shannon's show, and I'll be a panelist there, apparently. So look forward to that. And thanks, guys.